All right, let's dive into a really fascinating story today, one that comes to us from a recently discovered manuscript. It's a story about a small Norwegian town, a devastating fire, and a secret that has been buried, and I mean that literally, for 2 whole decades.
So picture this small town, Strand, and on a hillside overlooking it, there's this plot of land everyone just calls Branntomten, or the burn ground. 20 years ago, a house fire there took an entire family, and ever since, the place has been left completely untouched. It's like a scar, not just on the landscape, but in the town's memory, haunted by the tragedy that unfolded there.
You know, for 20 years, the town has managed to find a kind of peace, one that's really built on a shared silence about that night. But that silence, it's about to be shattered. The ground itself is about to be forced to give up its secrets. So what kicks this whole thing off? It all starts with a single, disruptive idea. A plan to build something new on the very ground that everyone has so carefully avoided for a generation.
Okay, so let's get our bearings here. The big tragedy, the fire, that happens way back in 1880. Our story really picks up 20 years later, in 1900. And it's this new plan for the land that forces everyone to finally confront the past, digging up a secret that, well, it changes everything.
And here's the spark that lights the fuse. 20 years later, the town's big-shot merchant, Consul Bratt, he sees progress where everyone else sees tragedy. He wants to build a modern, state-of-the-art sanatorium right there on Branntomten. But digging up that soil, that threatens to dig up a whole lot more than just dirt and ash. It threatens a lie that has held this town together.
And to really get what's going on, you have to understand that this silence isn't just a town-wide thing. It's been held in place all this time by 2 specific people who have lived with the weight of that night, sharing a secret they've never ever spoken about.
First up, you've got Dr. Weyergang. He was the official physician who had to examine the scene, the bodies, the whole terrible mess. Now, his official report said it was an accident, but he has been haunted by what he really saw. And then there's Thea Bratt, who just so happens to be the consul's wife. She was at the house that night, and she holds her own dark, very certain idea about who was to blame.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. On one side, you have the story everyone in town knows. An accidental fire, a lamp got knocked over, a terrible tragedy. But then you have what Dr. Weyergang can't shake, that smell of paraffin, like from a lantern, where it had no business being. He remembers the body of the mother, Jørgen Mohr, and she wasn't running away from the fire. No, she was running toward her son's room. And now a letter from Thea Bratt confirms his worst fears. The past is far from over.
So to get this sanatorium built, the consul needs to bring in an outsider, someone with no baggage, no connection to the town's history. And it's this man's methodical work that's going to dismantle the official story, piece by piece.
Meet Knut Eid. He's young, he's scientific, and he's from the capital. He's here to do a job, plain and simple. Check the ground, see if it can hold a new building. He sees soil and stone, not ghosts and memories. He is the perfect, unintentional agent of truth.
And Eid, being the professional he is, just follows his process. He surveys the ground and almost immediately spots something weird. A patch of soil that's been disturbed, dug up and refilled long ago. So he digs a test trench to see what's up, and that's when he finds it.
This is it, the moment it all changes. In the middle of this totally routine survey, his trowel just clinks against something. And it's not a rock, it's not a root, it's metal. A metal box, buried deep in the earth, just waiting.
So, what's in this box that's been buried for 2 decades? It's a letter, a confession, the real story of what happened that night, not from a witness, but from the man who lit the match.
The letter is from Jørgen Mohr, the man everyone thought died by accident, and it begins with these 5 chilling words. He didn't just die in the fire. He started it. Mohr's confession lays out this cold, terrible arithmetic behind the fire. He was drowning in debt he could never repay. His solution? Insurance fraud. But for the policy to pay out to his family, his death had to look like an accident. So he engineered his own demise. But his plan, his attempt to control fate, had a terrible, unforeseen flaw.
You see, Mohr thought he had it all figured out. The fire would start in the main hall, far away from his wife and son, who he assumed would be sleeping in the east wing. The smoke and noise would wake them and push them out a safe door into the garden. He believed he had accounted for every single variable to save them.
But, in his own final words, Mohr has to face the horrifying result. He admits his own arrogance. He really believed he could control fire, control what people would do, and he was tragically, devastatingly wrong.
So you'd think, mystery solved, right? Case closed. But that's not what happens. Finding this letter doesn't bring peace. It shatters the foundation of everything the characters thought they knew, and it replaces a simple lie with a reality that is so much more painful.
And for Thea Bratt, this is an absolute earthquake. For 20 years, she has lived with the absolute certainty that Jørgen Mohr's wife, Karen, set that fire out of jealous rage. The truth? It's the exact opposite. Karen wasn't a monster. She was a hero who died trying to save her son from the fire her husband started.
So what was the fatal flaw? What went so horribly wrong with Mohr's plan? Well, it all depended on one critical assumption, that his wife, Karen, would be asleep in the East Wing. She wasn't. She was awake, in the main hall, confronting her husband's lover, Thea herself, at the exact moment and the exact place the fire was meant to start.
The truth is finally out of the ground, but it solves nothing. In fact, it creates a whole new problem. Dr. Weyergang, Thea Bratt, even the engineer could Ida. They're now guardians of a truth that is so much more devastating than the lie. What on earth do they do now?
And this really is the question at the heart of the whole story. The lie was easy, in a way. It gave them a villain, a reason, someone to blame. But the truth? The truth reveals only victims. Victims of desperation, of arrogance, of tragedy. There are no simple villains here. So which is heavier to carry? A simple, ugly lie, or a complex, heartbreaking truth?
And the story just leaves us there, to weigh those heavy questions ourselves. This entire narrative has been an exploration of Branntomten, a powerful fictional manuscript presented as a lost novel by the great playwright Henrik Ibsen. It's an incredible story about the secrets we try to bury and the truths that simply refuse to stay hidden.